this afternoon. Folks, we're going to start off today to talk a little bit about the automotive industry. We had the founder of Tesla here on Wednesday, but we're here to talk a little bit about AI in automotive and specifically about what does it do on the production side and different things. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Barbara Sichler from Volkswagen. Thank you.
Good morning also from my side. I'm very happy and also excited to be here today. My name is Barbara. I'm talking a little bit about AI in automotive, more on the internal side, and share a few learnings that we've had in Volkswagen Group around that. Now, I have three main topics I want to talk about. First is, what is AI? Because I realize people sometimes do not really know. There is a big hype around it, but what is it? Then second, what do we do with it? Giving a little bit of insight there. And the third part, what have we learned and how did we do it? What is AI? It's one of the biggest hypes in the technology industry at the moment, I believe. So AI is really the objective of reaching a super intelligence at one point. So we have had a definition here about a biological intelligence that we're trying to achieve. Now, there's a lot of talk about supercomputers, super intelligence. How do we get there? We get there applying machine learning. Machine learning is basically algorithms that you apply to learn from a massive amount of data. This is actually driving AI. You have data sets, you apply intelligent algorithms there, and you learn from it, you predict from it. So this is why we rather talk at Volkswagen about machine learning than about AI. We want to get away from the big hype, but really get down to achieving value add through this new technology. Now, what do you need to do? You need to collect your data. You need to store it centrally. You use powerful hardware. Some of you might have come across the term of GPUs. It's basically coming from the gaming industry, very powerful graphical cards that can now be used also on the B2B side to process the data and the algorithms. And then, of course, you need smart people who develop algorithms, formulas that analyze your data in simple terms. So this is how you achieve insight from your data. And this is what AI is ultimately about. Now, AI has been out there, or machine learning, for a long time, for at least 20, 30 years. So this morning I talked to a colleague here saying, well, even in the 60s there was some talk about tomorrow we'll have the big AI thing and the super intelligence. Well, we have 2017 now, and we still don't have that massive super intelligence. We're still working towards it, but why it's getting such a hype is we have a massive amount of data. You know, a couple of years ago we did talk a lot about Internet of Things, about devices that connect to the Internet. Today, this is, for example, one of our cars. And with all these devices connecting to the Internet, you can collect the data therefrom. So you have huge amounts of data. I did touch a little bit about the computing performance already, about GPUs. So you have the Moore's law, some of you might be familiar with. So you have the power of computers growing every 2 years, doubling basically. And then what is also, so these factors are really driving the development. And what is quite new is also the open source approach. I've been, if you study my CV, I've been in IT for 10 years. But what is really new for me is that algorithms are open source today. So these are being shared. So the tricky part here is really, of course, the infrastructure bit, getting that set up, but also collecting your data in the right way, process it, and get it ready for use. So, for example, on open source, Baidu in China is one of the biggest companies applying AI across various industries, from payment, social media interaction, and so forth. And even they share very openly the insights they gain and the algorithms they gain. So the community can learn from it. So that's pretty impressive, I think. So these are really the three main drivers there. Now coming to the question, what can you do with it? Just to start it very simply, AI is basically in everybody's life already today. Most famous one is Google. When you use a Google search, for example, if you want to look for what is AI, you get an impressive millions of hits in the web. Now, if you imagine you have to do a manual analysis on this, impossible. So you need machines to do that for you, to rank it by importance and relevance to you. Also, computers learn today from there. So this is just one simple application. Another very powerful area is, the ones of you using Apple platform, is Siri. Siri is actually recognizing your voice and also speech recognition and text recognition. It's a very powerful tool for the future that you don't have to manually type while you're busy with other things, but you just talk to a machine. And this is, of course, the same as for Google Now or from Alexa from Amazon, you might have come across. Now, coming towards Volkswagen Group, why is AI important to us? Of course, the first thing you're going to think about is when you hear about a car manufacturer is autonomous driving. Obviously, this is one of the most important areas and key areas from us. Some of you might have followed the automotive show in Frankfurt, IAA, these days, where Audi just did massive announcement the past 2 days on their AI program and how they're going to develop products and services. So this is publicly quite known. But I want to venture off with you in an area that is not so publicly known, how we apply AI inside Volkswagen and why. Now, one is, of course, digital services and products across all sorts, in the car, outside the car. And the second area is the smart enterprise area, where I'm going to show you in a minute a few use cases. The idea there is to optimize and maybe in the future even automate processes. There is huge power there, huge potential there. So across the entire value chain, we do a lot of things there. So from technical development, production, procurement, you might be familiar with it. It's a very standard value chain. You can apply AI or machine learning in various sorts. Now, let me introduce 3 concrete examples of what we do with AI. First one being the virtual sales planner. Can you imagine we have a car program of 50 to 100 different models and variations you can basically put accessories into your car. You can imagine if you have to plan that centrally for a market, the complexity is so huge. You cannot even manually plan for all the possible combinations. But still you have to make a very wise decision, because once you plan your sales, these cars will sit on your stock. So it will bind capital in your company. And what we have done with one of our first test markets is actually analyze 4 million configurations of our customers and 300,000 car orders to come up with the ideal configuration of a car. And that is a quite powerful tool, but that we were able to realize quite a few savings and also optimizations to help make the sales planner's life easier. That is what it is about. Another area is the all-time parts prognosis. Now, Volkswagen has some 90 million cars in the car park for our customers, and as an OEM, we have to service these cars for 15 years. So you can imagine planning the right parts in the right amount for the right markets and the right warehouse in time is a huge challenge. Now, what we've done with AI is we've analyzed the 450,000 parts that we have, the possible combination for the 15 years of the lifespan by looking at past data. What did customers buy? How much of them and where and what car models are available in which market? And by that analysis, we were able to optimize again our stock and also optimize the delivery time for our customers. Coming to a bit outlook to the future. Now, optimizing traffic flows in cities is, of course, one of the biggest topics for an automotive OEM. We have started here a future, I must say, research program. What we did here is we took test data from taxis in Beijing, because you see on the left, the taxis traditionally on the way from the city center to the airport, there was a lot of traffic jam traditionally, and still is. Now, what we did is we took a quantum computer. Now, you might have come across that quantum computers is a new way of hardware that is deemed to be more powerful than traditional GPUs or CPUs. It's still in the test and research phase there. So we partnered up there with D-Wave. It's a Canadian startup where we've used their hardware, took the data from Beijing and applied our algorithms. And what we did is we developed basically individual routings for the cars. Now, ideally, you start recognizing first what is the traffic pattern behind. How do people move in the city? Where is the likelihood of congestions the biggest? Then, once you start in the middle of predicting, congestions are likely to happen here or there. Over the next 40 minutes, for example, you take that data and try to optimize it with individual routings. So the customers, or in that case, taxis, can seamlessly venture and reach their goals and destinations. This is still, must say, in the test phase, but you can imagine for the future this has enormous potential, basically because this is a big problem in the biggest cities in the world. So Google has done a lot of work there, of course, and we as a car manufacturer come in with our car data, with our intelligence, and try to make people's life really better there. Now, what have we learned and how did we get there? We have founded in 2013 a team called Data Lab Munich. This is also the team where I'm based at. Because in 2013 we've recognized data is going to be a big thing. At that time we've referred to as big data, and we realized we can't really, in traditional IT structures, we struggle to set that structure up that we need to develop these innovative things. So a decision has been taken to found in Munich, far away from the headquarters actually, a competence team, at that time still a startup with 4 people, that start investigating that area. So that was pretty exciting. You might ask, why Munich? Well, in Munich there's 2 big universities, the LMU and the TU Munich. TU Munich, by the way, just won recently an award in a challenge with Elon Musk around Hyperloop. Not sure if you've come across it, pretty exciting there. So you see there is really big talent in town. So, and this is what we see as well when we hire and grow the team, that this talent is really wanting to stay in the city, stay in that environment. In simple terms, and excuse me for the Wolfsburg colleagues, to Wolfsburg, in the middle of nowhere, we can't get that talent. So this is why we are based in Munich. What has been done so far is we've developed more than 100 use cases, some examples you've just seen, up to the stage of a prototype. Now, this is really important. We started off as a prototyping test company, basically, or testing, not as a test company, sorry, but really as a team testing the concepts and venturing off and even acting as evangelists within the company. Because you can imagine a couple of years ago, no one really had big knowledge around data. At that time, we did talk about business intelligence, but not yet really applying algorithms strategically to a big amount of data. So that is also important. Now we are at the stage 4 years later to really move things into production, into serious use, which is a challenge in many things. I mean, we're called a lab, so this is an area we spend a lot of time and effort on. Now, what has been achieved, and this is really amazing, you have millions of savings. We've had here $200 million in saving that we have discovered across the value chain, and we're still not at the top. So there is still a lot more potential and not a lot more to achieve, and it's a pretty amazing number. Now, we have at the moment 50 team members with a very diverse and international background. We talk in a minute a little bit more about talent, which is the scarcest resource in that topic, and we're still growing because we figure out we have a lot more requests for our support than we can actually help people with. Now, the background of our team is analytics, machine learning, which means we have people who study mathematics, informatics, even physicians, which is a very broad area, and also business people, of course, who work a little bit with the business on where to discover the data potential. At the bottom, you will notice I talked about Volkswagen. You might know, just to spend 30 seconds on this, we are a big, big group. We have 13 brands. The brand newest one is Moja, around mobility services. And the team in Munich is really set out to service all these companies. That's also a very important aspect to really share what is being developed centrally with all the team members. Now, how did we get there? I did talk about 2013, where it was founded. Our focus was then really applying advanced analytics in various use cases. We are now focusing on applying AI, so we're starting that within this year, and really building, as I just mentioned, not only prototypes, but using that long-term and sustainably across our value chain. And what we see coming, and this is really a bit of a bet into the future, is autonomous systems. Now, what do we understand as autonomous systems? It's basically still systems that are set out to support our team members and employees in Volkswagen to do their job. Let me just outline one more example there. In the logistics area, you can imagine monitoring the supply chain for 120 factories worldwide is a big challenge. And we are producing about 10 million cars a year. So you can imagine the supplier network behind there is very complex and very international. And doing that monitoring, even per brand centrally, is very, very complex. So there we can apply intelligent algorithms, integrate data, and then monitor what is going on in our supplier network. For example, you remember perhaps the earthquake in Fukushima in Japan a couple of years ago. It is far away from Europe, far away from our headquarters. But even then, when the first predictions were coming that an earthquake will happen, first alarms were going on saying, guys, there might be a problem in your supply chain. And at the end of the day, the impact was there. There were some colorings produced close to Fukushima that we just couldn't get delivered because the factories were destroyed at that time. So it just gives you a little bit of flavor of the complexity we have there and the potential also we have there. If there's a system that automatically alerts you as a logistics expert saying, oh, there's something coming up. The same applies if you integrate weather data, for example. What happened just recently in the south of the US, where we also have a factory close there, it's a massive impact also to your supply chain again. So this is just another example where we see the future going. Now, what I'm actually very proud of, that we have built in Munich a very interesting ecosystem. We have talked about the team members we have on site, very skilled. We have, since last October, we are very proud of a fundamental research group. Now, you might ask, why is Volkswagen having their own fundamental research group? Reason there is, things are getting so complex and we want to make sure we are not only applying what others developed, but we are contributing to this community as well. I've talked to you before about sharing what has been developed, about open source. This is what this group of currently 10 people with Professor van der Smarkt from TU Munich does. They're investigating time and effort to advance the algorithms that are there for deep learning, reinforcement learning, you name it. Very complex topics. And we give that back to the community. So suddenly we are part of a bigger community and a bigger round of experts in machine learning AI, which is then in turn very valuable for us because we learn, of course, also from these colleagues. Another aspect I'm quite happy to have is the startup collaboration space. We are at the moment still having the application phase for our AI incubation space running. So if you have good AI solutions and if you're a startup, please apply for our startup collaboration space. It's running until tonight. And what we will give you back in turn is actually a free office space, a funding of 30,000 euros for 3 months, and concrete contacts and integration into Volkswagen Group. And last but not least, of course, our ecosystem on site. We have the research group, we have the mentoring experts from our team, and as a matter of fact, also the autonomous driving technology group is located in our building. So that's what we give here within Volkswagen. And another aspect is, of course, the tech scene in Munich with universities, partners. For example, IBM, we're partnering with them in various aspects where the Worldwide IoT Center is located quite close to our office. So this is why Munich is very attractive already and becoming even more attractive for the future as more and more technology startups and companies are settling there. I did mention before the team. So we are driving, obviously, the digital transformation of Volkswagen, all concerning data topics. We have a team of 15 nationalities, or more than 15 nationalities. More than 20 different languages are spoken, main language being English, which is for a German company quite a move, as you can imagine. It starts with simple things like our working contracts are just in German, and then you have suddenly a team member coming on board who doesn't understand German. So we did push our colleagues in Wolfsburg a lot to kind of transform as well. And this is in a way also a bit the role of this data lab in Munich, to act as evangelists, as I mentioned before, on data, but also on new ways of working. Because you imagine agile development in the terms of data is a lot faster, a lot more flexible than the standard corporate IT that we have. So this is a very interesting and at the same time challenging task for us, where I get very excited about to transform also our traditional IT colleagues. Now, let me come back to the talent. Diversity is very important to us because, as research also documents, it fosters a climate of innovation. I can openly share with you, I've been, just mentioned it, a couple of years in IT, also holding people management responsibilities. Now, the guys we have here in the team are extremely challenging. Now, if you take a decision on something, they really want to know why you're taking that decision, and they want to make sure you take the best decision for everyone on the team. Now, that can sometimes be a bit tiresome, but on the other hand, it's exactly what I'm trying to say here. It creates innovation because it makes you think differently. And the guys and the girls on the team force you to think differently. And this is what I've found very exciting and also enriching for myself, for my personal development, even as their people manager. It's a different climate, really. And the unique ecosystem is very important also to our team members. Why? Because there is extreme scarcity of talent. So if you're looking into investigating into data solutions, the first and foremost thing is figure out a way to get talented people. Headhunters are all over the place. I mean, platforms like LinkedIn and so forth are just fostering that development. But this is really one of the key learnings. Attract talent and figure out a way to keep them. And one of our answers is, amongst others, we have that ecosystem that allows them not to lose their skill while they're with us, but to grow while they're with us. You remember the startups contribute, the research group contributes, and also the colleagues amongst each other, because that background is so diverse, contributes there. So this is one of the key lessons you'll see later on in my summary as well. Talent is the key. How do we work? I think you might be familiar with it. The only thing here is AI research, fundamental research I've talked a little bit about. They help us really to apply their newest insights to what is being done in the applied side. So if you want to do a project with us, we start with designing your idea. You might have come across design thinking. It's a methodology to kind of structurally break down your ideas into concrete, use cases, as we call them. Use cases in terms of a small project with a concrete objective. We do a lot of consulting service there because we realize colleagues across the group are not yet that familiar with data and what to do with them. So the first question we ask is basically, what is that you want to achieve? And the second question is, what data do you have? And then we break it down is what can be done, what are relevant questions. And what is also important to us, we start small and want to discover very fast if an idea is valuable to follow up or not. Because traditionally in IT, some of you from working on SAP projects, you have these massive, big things. What we want to try to do is start small and evolve incrementally there. The second type is prototype. I've mentioned before already. This was our traditional focus until, let's say, end of last year, to come up with solutions very fast up to the level of a prototype. Now, the data lab, we talk about data lab 2.0 or even renaming the lab towards a technology center now, we go into implementation. So our business has sustainable value there and can apply what has been discovered in a prototype for their daily work, basically. We refer here not to AI in the artificial intelligence way, but to augmented intelligence that we apply, which means basically, as I mentioned before, this technology is helping you doing your daily job a bit better and easier. And of course, you have operation there as well, which is done by our colleagues in Wolfsburg mainly. So a lot of know-how transfer is being taken from the decentral team in Munich to the headquarter IT in Wolfsburg. Now, key lessons learned from our side. We did talk about the talent. So this is where I, putting myself into someone's shoes who is just starting off, think about the talent, how to attract, how to keep them. Then second, develop a data strategy. It might sound stupid because obviously you need a strategy, but we figured it's not that easy because some areas do not collect data at all maybe. Other areas do collect data but in a wrong way. So figure out conceptually really what you want to do. Then of course the third element, it's about technology. Build up technology platforms, get the right providers on board, and implement it for you internally. And fourth, last but not least, it's also about culture. I mean, this summit is about digital transformation, and so it applies here as well. Transformation is not just a technology thing. It's also the readiness of people in their minds to open up, to share, and to discover new things. And these are really the four main things I wanted to bring here today with me, because I think these are the four most relevant insights. Of course, there's a lot more technology aspect we could talk about for hours and hours, but this is actually all I wanted to share with you today in my main speech, and I think now we're open to more specific questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. I want to open the floor to questions. I mean, how many of you? Oh, perfect. Hold on. Let me get the cube here. We learned this. We're not going to throw this thing. It's a terrible idea. Here you go.
Good morning. Thanks for the interesting speech. I think I learned a lot. And one of the questions also about like data and how you use data was, as I'm driving one of your cars, and I really like that kind of like already steers automatically without being autopiloted. Do you collect that data, like the performance of that, and do you like work with that? Because I kind of like expect that that it gets better while I'm driving it.
Yes, I mean, not our group in Munich, I have to say. We're involved in some of the motor and assistance systems, but at a very low level. But yes, as far as I know, this data is being collected, and this is exactly what Audi tries to do and figure out with the group to make these assistance systems better and evolve them gradually into an autonomous vehicle.
That's cool.
Yep.
Cool.
Pretty exciting also.
It is. Thanks.
Perfect. Cool. Do we have any other questions in the audience? Oh, perfect. One, just pass it, one back. We'll just go row by row. So.
Right. You mentioned the different cultures between Wolfsburg and Munich. Can you say something how that works once you start implementing your ideas back into corporate R&D departments? What's your experience there?
Yeah, yes, you're hitting a very critical point in that entire value chain. And I have to say we are very fortunate to work with really kind colleagues who are very open to change. But you hit the point of having a two-speed IT. In the lab, we have traditionally a lot of freedom to develop things. And suddenly you hit an IT whose focus is to run stable systems. So of course, a lab from the outside trying to poke the others saying, guys, you need to move, you need to move. So the way we approach this is start early and involve them very tightly. Because what we've learned also, they are very excited to join us in our projects and to give people from Wolfsburg the opportunity to stay in Munich for a couple of weeks or days in workshops. And really, what is most important is the culture thing, that both sides are open-minded and work towards each other. It's a process, it's evolving, I have to say. Yeah.
Probably a lot of visitors from Wolfsburg the next couple of weeks,
yes.
Right? I take it for meetings.
Yeah, historically, a lot of visitors, because today we have even an organization called Think New organization in Volkswagen, because you might be aware what's going on in our industry is fundamental. Not only the combustion engine is going to change to electric, but people are not buying cars, they're sharing cars. So also the way we do things has to change. Hardware is our greatest strength, and we need to augment that with intelligence and software business. So just to summarize that. And it's a process. It's not done yet. We are right on that journey.
Perfect, thank you. Do we have any other questions? We got time for a handful more questions. Who's working on some, oh, perfect, right here.
Good morning. You were talking about design thinking and how you apply it. Do you use the concept of human-centered design like IDEO does, or how do you organize these workshops, or what is the approach there?
Yep, we do not use that specific method yet, at least not that we know of. Let me put it that way. So let's make an example. You have a specific request to do things in after sales with your data. We would come to you basically with our experts, and we would explore what you have there. So you would say, well, my biggest problem is I don't know how many, let's make the spare part thing, how many spare parts I need in a specific warehouse at a certain point in time. Then we would work out what is the experience around it. We would not start with the technology bit, but trying to nail down what is it really that you want to achieve ultimately, because sometimes it turned even out that the question you initially asked is actually not the relevant one. We're venturing off to a completely different area. So we're discussing there a lot of very business and basic things, and then venturing through the process of applying that, and then only then getting into technology. This is for us in IT a challenge, because usually we started talking about tech before we really figured out what we want to solve. And this is why we really want to start off at this very end.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, just pass the cue back there. We'll get a little volleyball game going.
Very specific question, actually, because what you do seems to be in very high demand, also within the company, within the group. Who sets the priorities? So who will tell you or tell yourself to actually go to that group or that unit to solve the next problem?
Very good question. I mean, I have to say, Data Lab Munich is not the only group in Volkswagen, luckily. I mean, with 50 team members, you can't cover the need of such a big group. So the work from us is being prioritized by us in the group, basically, in Munich. We report directly to the CIO. He's reviewing our progress at least twice a year. The way we prioritize is based on the impact we're making in the business. The money we save or the impact technology-wise. Like the two areas I've shown before, and there needs to be significant progress to be made. And if not, like scaling solutions is not our primary focus, there's then other groups who will do that.
People want a lot of coffee with you to like bribe you into set the priorities, right?
Right.
A lot of Oktoberfest visit, I would take.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow.
Yeah, that's what I mean. A lot of people coming in. Cool. Perfect. We've time for a couple more questions. So, is anybody working on sort of a challenge like that, kind of trying to build out a competence center for AI?
Well, you guys should. Sorry to say that. It doesn't matter which industry you're in.
Well, so let's take that question. So where should they start, right? We got a whole bunch of people who are going to start at an AI competence center later today. So where should they start in their company? I mean, at least if you're looking for a place to kind of talk to kind of an area to be like, this is where we could save something, this is where we could do something.
Yeah,
where would you start?
My recommendation would be get together with your strategy guys and your business development guys and really figure out what is driving your business. And where do you have the greatest pain point? Like in the financial industry, I believe, I'm not an expert there, but I believe their customer interface is changing dramatically. They're basically going a similar transformation than we are. Their business model is changing. So I would figure out with the strategy guys, what can we do there? Because physical presence in the future of banking, I don't believe it plays that of a big role as it is today. So figure out what is driving your business, and then figure out as a next step what you can do with data, and where AI or technology overall, I mean, AI is being probably overhyped in many cases, but where technology can help you. And I'm sure data insights will be part of it. I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, the first question I think you'll probably get when you come back here is like, whoa, but this sounds expensive, right? It's like talent, ooh, this could be expensive. When you said, you saved $200 million in terms of what you guys have done in that sense, how directly have you been able to measure that? So if you come back with a slide deck like, hey guys, look, we did these 5 projects and $200 million returned to shareholders, I want to grow. And they'd be like, absolutely yes. Or how much of that is like, we save time per car? Like, how easy was it for you to kind of define the value that you brought back into that $200 million number?
It's a very big discussion with our controllers.
I would imagine. Hence the question.
Because ultimately it comes down to the question, which cost center is going to get rid of some money? Or where can I take the money away from and where can I put it in? So biggest discussion, the way we do is we let the business people develop the business case. Of course, that's not a discussion we IT people are in. It's driven by the business. And it's amazing, the opportunities. I actually didn't believe the numbers when I saw them first. I said, guys, come on, let's keep it low. You don't talk about such a big impact and say, well, if you have it annually and then count it over the years, the impact is huge because we haven't done a lot with our data in the past. And so we are growing that. And yeah, I think there's a lot more to come.
I'm excited. I'm excited to see what you do, especially on the supply chain side as well. I mean, in terms of certain companies like Apple right now, air shipping freights are going up for the new iPhone. You're seeing they've done a cool job at also optimizing their new freight sort of system for that whole thing going forward. Perfect. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Adrian, here we go.
Hello, thank you for your speech. In, let's say, the ethical question is also a very big question, the whole autonomous, specifically on autonomous driving part. Do you also address that in a certain way?
Very good question. It is a very big topic. Once we come into autonomous system, yes. I have to say we have no concept ready and no answer ready for that, but we are following that up at various different levels from strategy side, also technology side. And if you're going to the direction of what Elon Musk is criticizing about the AI hype that machines can get out of control, I don't see that risk in short term. But in long term, definitely we need to think about regulations because you can do a lot of things with technology, as we know, not only with AI, but also other things. So the only way to fix that is regulation. And the ethical side, yes, it needs to be addressed, definitely. It's on our agenda.
Please, throw it back. There you go.
I have actually two questions. The first would be, how come that Volkswagen, as such a huge technology company, realized in 2013, I think, that they can use the data that they are collecting every day? And the second part would be, I mean, you're a company of more than 200,000 people, I guess. Are you really the only guys that are using data within Volkswagen, or are there many more teams that are working on it?
Okay. Let me start with the first one. How did it come about in 2013? It was actually our CIO, Martin Hofmann, together with my predecessor, Conny Schaurecker. The two of them were sitting together and thinking like, well, everyone is talking about the big data hype. What are we doing? So they discovered there is no structure to that. So they started with, I think, 3-4 people in the MAN offices downtown Munich to start developing concepts, very small. And this is what I wanted to show with the slide before. It has grown and it will grow in the future for sure. Are we the only ones? No, definitely not. There is quite a few groups, luckily, within Volkswagen. Just to answer the question, we are 600,000 employees worldwide, so huge. We have 120 production facilities. Most of the people, of course, are producing cars today, and in the future, same ratio. We have major groups in the US, downtown San Francisco. We have many more labs, not just the data lab, the smart production lab in Würzburg. In San Francisco, it's the digital lab, developing all sorts of things. In Berlin, we have the ideation hub, digital lab as well. So there's a number of groups across the company, luckily doing that. It would be sad if we were the only ones.
Perfect. I assume there's a lot of collaboration between the groups.
Yes,
as well.
sorry, I missed that one. Of course, we collaborate very closely. We do projects together. Even across time distances, that works out really well. We have also personnel exchange. So if you build various groups, very important to have similar views. Like one of our CTOs, or our CTOs just changed over to the US last year. And we're still maintaining close collaboration. The B-Wave quantum computing project that I've referred to, we do together.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Yeah, we got time for another 1 or 2 questions. Good
Thank
catch.
you. You mentioned that you have some collaboration, new inspiration from also the research area. do you also share data to this research area?
Very good question. To my knowledge, we don't share that today. We share in open source manner our insights. So algorithms in a database. Because the data is a critical point. I know that some of our competitors like BMW start sharing very openly their data from the connected car space. At Volkswagen, to my knowledge, we are not yet there. And I can't really answer if this is our strategy really long term.
Okay, this is the hardest part for research, to get this data to.
We know.
Okay.
We know. I had one point technically up there earlier around data. So we do not only collect data, but we also produce data in a way, mechanically. So this is how the research, and we also use public data, of course, that for example, for the D-Wave example on routing. So this is how the group operates, basically.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Perfect. Yeah, we have time for one more question, if anybody would like to ask the last question. Oh, there you go. Just one down.
Okay, totally different question. How do you see your company Volkswagen in comparison to other companies in the market? I mean, for example, there's Tesla, which is also very hyped, right? And so are you on the front, or do you see yourself like running behind a little bit? I hope for an honest answer, actually.
That's a tough question. That's a tough question.
Yeah, let me take it from that side. I personally have high respect for Elon Musk as an entrepreneur. What he is doing with automotive is amazing, but also in other areas, really high respect. Honestly, I don't have a clear view if we're behind or not behind. I know we have a great strength in hardware that now needs to be extended to the software world. And this is where we are at. Basically, we are not the top leaders. I don't think so, but we're making good progress. Let me put it that way. And I'm very confident with the talent we have on board, we definitely be part of the mobility future. I have no doubt about that.
It's with 600,000 employees, you're forwards in some parts, probably a little behind in others.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way. Ladies, I just want to say thank you very much for being up here. Thank you
welcome.
for taking so many questions.
Thanks
and we
for
have a
having
little
me.
something for you here.
Oh, wow.
We got you a stylish bag ready for Oktoberfest.
Wow.
It's not blue, but
That's cool.
that's what the headset's for.
Wonderful.
So thank you very much.
Thank you so
for
much.
being here today, and thank you. And if you're gonna be around afterwards,
Yeah,
to answer
sure,
some questions,
definitely.
People around there. Perfect.
Thanks-
Thank you very
thanks
much,
for
ladies and
having me.
gentlemen. Round of
Thank you.
applause. Folks, we're moving on from the car space. We've done cars. We've done cars this festival. We've done cars. So next, we're moving on to somebody who's done